In an era when politicians, businesses, and individuals use studies to make life-changing decisions, even when other studies conflict with them, we need to know how to separate solid studies from mushy ones. And you're in luck, and Just Facts is going to give you the tools you need to do just that. That's right. In this series, we'll give you the scoop on how to analyze studies like a genius. In this video, let's examine one of the worst and most common ways studies are misinterpreted. It's called overgeneralizing. We're using narrow data to draw broad conclusions. Our culture frowns on some forms of overgeneralizing, particularly stereotyping. However, when public policy agendas and pocketbooks are on the line, that scowl can quickly turn into a smile. As explained in an academic book about how to apply statistics, researchers in the behavioral and social sciences almost always want to make inferences beyond their samples. But this is always risky, and it is questionable to generalize the results of a study to people who are drastically different from the subjects of a study. What does that mean? Well, if a study claims to measure the health effects of a medicine, but excludes people who are highly vulnerable to the disease the medicine is supposed to prevent, be aware, the results don't apply to everyone, only to the type of people included in the study. And the same goes for drug studies that deliberately exclude people with naturally acquired immunity to the studied disease. If those people are left out of the study, the results don't apply to them either. This may all seem pretty obvious, and you might be thinking, who would overgeneralize like that? Well, there's no need to guess, because government agencies, media outlets, and so-called fact checkers have all used very narrow studies to make broad, sweeping claims about the entire US, and even the world. This is a form of the old bait and switch, and it is rampant. A prime example is a study that's commonly cited to support universal government preschool. The study, called the Perry study, used the gold standard methodology of a randomized control trial. That's great. However, this 1960 study was limited to impoverished children with IQs ranging from 70 to 85, as compared to the national average of 111 at the time. In total, the study included only 123 children in one town, with characteristics shared by only 2% of the US population. In other words, the study was far from universal, but that doesn't stop certain people from citing it to argue for universal government preschool. Another common way in which studies are overgeneralized involves outcome measures. According to a paper in the journal Statistics in Medicine, one of the most important considerations in designing clinical trials is the choice of outcome measures. This is because such measures should provide reliable evidence about whether a treatment provides clinically meaningful benefits, like preventing death, pain, or hospitalization. However, medical studies often use indirect measures like antibody levels or blood tests, because this enables trials for regulatory approval to be smaller in size and shorter in duration. In other words, it means less costs, less time, and more profits. The paper then details the harms caused by these kinds of shortcuts, like misleading doctors to prescribe 250,000 US patients annually 2 heart medications that actually tripled the death rate. Do you see why it's so important to be on the lookout for overgeneralization and not blindly trust the experts to do it for you? In fact, experts are notorious for getting tunnel vision and losing sight of the big picture. And that's why MIT physicist Victor Weisskopf defined an expert as someone who knows more and more about less and less, until finally he knows everything about nothing. An expert who's hyper-focused on antibody levels may assume that a medicine which raises them will save lives. However, that is an overgeneralization, because it fails to account for any side effects of the medicine that cost lives. The only way to be certain if a medicine saves lives on net is to measure deaths among people who take and don't take the medicine. In highly scientific terms, if you want to know if a medicine saves lives, you have to measure if it saves lives. Again, this all seems pretty obvious, but it's easy to miss in a soundbite culture that prefers concise over precise. So, as you analyze studies, here's how to avoid the trap of overgeneralization. 1. Don't trust anyone to tell you what a study says. Read it for yourself while asking, who does the study apply to and what does it directly measure? 2. Don't just read the overview of the study. Read all of it, and don't skim over sections with headers like limitations, which are commonly buried near the end of studies. That is where you often find the most important details. And 3, if you don't have time to take these steps, withhold judgment instead of jumping on the bandwagon with your favorite media outlets or commentators. Bottom line, don't be fooled by half-truths and rhetoric about the greater good. Only genuine facts, determined by sound research, can lead to well-informed decisions. So keep it locked to Just Facts Academy and learn more about how to analyze studies like a genius.